Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on which time zone are you in, and maybe you watch us in recording. Let's talk about web push notifications today. What are we going through in next few minutes, maybe 1 hour? First of all, what is web push notifications at all, and what's more important and more practical and more useful, how to start using this in a proper way. And I firmly believe that this session will be interesting both to the web developers, or to be more precise, web front-end developers, because after all, these are people who implement all these interesting functionalities. But if you never built any kind of web experience and don't plan it, still stay tuned, stay with us, because you will learn how to be a good user, and let's say what to expect from web services, web products, websites you use. And I promise you will learn something new. After all, who is this person who is speaking to you? I'm Maxim Salnikov. I'm a developer productivity business lead in Microsoft. I'm based in Oslo, Norway, stream live from this beautiful location. And I'm big fan of web platform. For many years, I research web platform. I of course build applications on web platform, and I share what I know and what I found about this very interesting thingy. And please allow me to stay on this slide for maybe a couple more minutes, because I want to use this slide as an explanation of web push notification anatomy. I mean, obviously, like, I have no doubt that we are all users of, let's say, push notifications, general ones on our mobile devices. So we know how they work. Sometimes they are super useful, sometimes they are annoying. But what is web push? Well, that's quite similar to native mobile experience, but still, let's go just component by component, piece by piece of what's available. And let's imagine that this content you see on the screen now is web push notification that came to your device. And yeah, we'll just go through some fields available in the specification of this web feature. First of all, of course, it has title. And actually, this is the only required component of web push notification you might want to send. And of course, you don't want to stop here, right? I mean, what kind of use could be if you just send title? It has field called body, and this is about some short text. And yeah, you remember that normally these notifications that are popping up or appear in some sidebar, they are not huge, right? So do not expect that you can fit pages of text there or paragraphs of text. No, let's be pragmatic and realistic. It's about maybe sentence, something like this. What you can paste there and what will be displayed without any cut off. Next, you can provide relatively small graphical image that will be somehow attached to where your title and body positioned. I say somehow because exact position of this field called icon is not part of specification. Every platform will decide itself how to actually arrange all the components of notification. So do not expect similar view and similar support of all the fields of web push notifications on every single device, on every single platform. Of course, they are all different. They have different screen sizes, that they have different UI frameworks. This is why we always keep in mind that this will look natively for respective platform. You can also provide set of actions. Of course, in many cases, in vast majority of cases, you are sending notification not to inform about something, but also to ask for some action. Maybe the simplest one, just visit this website that sent this notification. But on some platforms, we can provide more predefined list of the actions. I mean, not just generic one when users will click or tap on this notification itself, but there'll be separate menu where we can list these actions, and of course we also provide URLs for these actions. Also, we can supply larger graphical component of the notification. It's called image in specification of push notification. Again, don't rely on this component, because this will be shown only on few few platforms, definitely not on mobile devices, on some desktop, on some supported browsers. And this statement, this disclaimer is relevant for vast majority of the fields there, maybe except core ones like title, body, and maybe icon. So these were images we provide as developers, as content owners. I mean, this is something that we are fully controlling. There are also few, we can call them system components of the notification for making the whole flow somehow predictable and controllable from the recipient perspective. Because definitely every single notification we receive as users, we want to understand which application, if you talk about native ones, or which website is sending these ones. It's even more complex in web platform, because you can actually register for web push notifications on multiple browsers if you love multi-browser setup on your, for example, laptop. And then each browser that supports web push notifications will send it to you separately. I mean, you can receive a bunch of similar messages. How to understand which browser is sending this? Maybe you want to go and opt out from some of them. That's easy, and browser icon will be part of the notification. And here I'm talking about web platform. And also you'll see host name, or to be more precise, more technically precise, origin, like host name and port, if this port is not port 80, if it's not default port. I mean, as a user, you will have full understanding, full clarity, which particular application from installed from which particular browser is sending you these applications. And also, you'll find some kind of system menu. Also, it could be it could take absolutely different forms on different platforms. For example, it could be something like 3 dots where you click or tap and you see some kind of system actions, not the ones provided by sender of this notification, but provided by system. Again, for have full control. Maybe you want to opt out of these notifications from this particular origin, or prohibit completely all notifications from this particular browser. It's all doable with this setting menu. Okay, this is what we can leverage, what kind of say expression tools we can leverage as developers, what can be sent. And my next slide will be about some kind of motivation behind push notifications. Push notifications in general and web ones in particular. Why do you want to use this particular channel to keep your users, customers, clients, you name them, informed? Push notifications have some very interesting features, benefits, advantages, I'd say. First of all, and this point is relevant to pretty much everything, both native ones and web push notifications. They will be delivered regardless of application or browser state. What do I mean here? We all know that we don't need to keep respective mobile application open to receive notifications from it, right? So, I mean, they will be delivered even when we are do something else with different application. And same for the web. So before progressive web applications era, our application, our web experience existed only while it's open in respective tab, right? So we close tab or we close browser and nothing exists from the website we've just used. Of course, it became completely different with coming of service workers, and service workers are basically engine behind web push notifications, delivery, and many other things. But we focus today only on notifications part of this. And thanks to very special life cycle of service worker, basically it's always on duty. It's always listening to some events. Again, if your application is open or not, your notification will be delivered. Then, compared to, let's say, more traditional or conservative, or we can call them legacy way of delivering notifications, like, for example, email, web push and push notification in general have way higher opt-in and open rates. So our peers from marketing team will be happy. Delivery channel is completely free. I mean, you pay nothing for delivery, 1 notification, 10 notifications, 100, 100,000, millions. I mean, you only pay for your backend infrastructure that is sending calls to send the notifications, right? But the delivery channel itself is completely free and quite reliable. But we'll focus on all these components a bit later. I hope previous slide convinced you that format capabilities are quite extensive. I mean, we have multiple fields, we can supply images, and we can provide proper engagement using all these techniques. I hope that in next few minutes, I will also convince you that it's relatively easy and fast to set everything up and start sending your first notification. And yeah, disclaimer, I'm not a big fan of saying easy, simple in anything related to IT, anything related to the development. So take this statement with a grain of salt, of course. And how we actually ended up in the web push notifications era. Let me super briefly list few milestones, and you'll see the history of push notifications in general. I mean, they did not appear yesterday. They did not appear even 10 years ago. They are with us for almost 2.5 decades. And it all started with a company called Research in Motion that produced quite famous, still famous mobile phones called BlackBerry. And yeah, they basically invented all this thing. And of course, it was nothing compared to current experience. It was just kind of LED blinking when you got new email. But anyway, it was a completely new concept compared to you go and check your mail yourself. I mean, the pull method, now it's pushed method. So information from server comes right after it's there. Then, quite a few years later, both Apple and Google, approximately at the same time, of course, they heavily competed these times and still, right, delivered something similar, but like on the next level for their mobile devices, right? We are not talking about web at all here yet. It's all like an early era of mobile devices, of mobile apps, and quite early notifications came to this field. Very first experiments with web happened in 2013 when Google implemented something similar to mobile native one for extensions of the browser. I mean, we still are not talking about websites yet, it's extensions. And approximately the same time, Apple introduced proprietary format of push notifications for their Safari browser. Again, this is completely different standard specification from what we have now. It's proprietary after all. Big change happened 2 years later when all Chromium-based browsers introduced something that is, after all, based on the web standard, not proprietary one, but the one somehow discussed by all players and approved, at least in form of draft. And both Chrome and Firefox and Microsoft also started experiments with web push notifications. And since this time point, everything developed according to respective standard, respective specification. Of course, this specification had also some changes, but anyway, it was huge milestone. It's something that is all browser vendors agreed on. And the last huge update happened last year, when the last major mobile platform, of course I'm talking about Apple devices, of course I'm talking about iPhones and iPads, I'm talking about iOS and iPadOS, they after all implemented this part of web standards. And if we check availability table for this particular standard, for this particular specification, you can easily check this on caniuse.com website, super useful one. Yeah, you see that pretty much all major platforms are either green or kind of grass green. That means that it's at least partially available. That gives us impressive number that 93% of internet users, I mean, according to calculations of caniuse, can receive web push notifications. I mean, I see no blockers for businesses go and implement this super powerful feature for pretty much all web products and web services where it's relevant. Yeah, now let's start diving into some technicalities. So we are talking about web push, and of course there are some conditions to be fulfilled if you want to send notifications as developer, and if you want your users, clients, recipients will receive these notifications. First of all, yeah, we are talking about two APIs that, of course, must work on end user device, either mobile device or laptop or like desktop device. And these are notifications API and web push API. For if notifications API is kind of self-standing specification, self-standing standard, I mean, it's relevant without any kind of web push context. And basically, this is just a way to display native notifications in the browser. I mean, you can either use it for web push or for any kind of other notifications you want to show. And of course, web push is heavily dependent on this. I mean, web push API is not relevant without the notification. I mean, we want not only to send notification, but we also want browser to actually display this. So this is why it's crucial that both APIs are available. I mean, depending on the platform, browser version. But you see on previous slide, you've seen that 93% of the users are good with having this ready. Then I already mentioned that under the hood, it's all driven by the service worker, because this is component of your web application that is always on duty, always listening to the events. You as developer is fully responsible for providing valid code in service worker event called push. I'll have some sample code, so you'll see what I mean exactly. And also you have to convince your user to allow notifications for the particular origin, or in like simpler words, in many cases we mean your website. And again, this is even not directly related to web push. You have to get this explicit permission from user side for any kind of notification you want to show with notifications API. But no worries, I'll explain you some best practices how to achieve this. One extra requirement specifically for iOS devices and iPad or OS devices, your web application must be added to the home screen, or in other words, installed. I mean, installability is a huge separate part of all progressive web application story. Unfortunately, we don't have chance to dive deeper into this, but again, please keep this in mind. And if your like stakeholder or users complain why they don't receive notifications, or actually they cannot even subscribe to notifications on iOS devices before they installed your app on their home screen. And yeah, last but not least, a device should be online. If you want to receive, if you want your recipient to receive notification here and now. I mean, there's no any kind of magic channel that will leverage your notifications. It's still after being about being connected. At the same time, there is some retry period. So if for whatever reason this particular user is offline, there will be some extra attempts to still deliver notification when they go back. Okay, these are prerequisites. Now we go even deeper. So web developers, pay your full attention to a couple of flows. And basically, these are two main flows I want to introduce for you to, again, easy and fast start implementing web push notifications for your device. And I mean, I'll be super happy if some of you will go and implement something for your maybe hobby project, maybe like some test version of your work project immediately. I promise. I mean, if you work with web frontend and partially with backend every single day, this will be not that challenging and not that long for you. So there are two flows: subscription and actually sending the notification. Let's start with the first one. And there are three kind of main and obligatory playing parties, or parties involved in all the loop. First of all, of course, particular device of the user who needs to subscribe first, and then they will receive notifications to exactly this device. I mean, these are all attached to a particular device where they subscribed from. I mean, if they signed up for receiving your web push notifications from like, for example, their iOS device, they will not receive them on desktop, even if they use your same website. Yeah, this is all attached to particular device. Of course, they can go and explicitly subscribe on multiple devices, multiple browsers, multiple everything. But anyway, let's start. It all starts with you as developer getting a key pair. Like in many cases, we want to make sure that no one is abusing our application. I mean, in simple words, no one is sending notifications on our behalf. So we have full control over every single notification sent, again, on behalf of our website. So in web push story, this key pair called Webit. I don't remember exact expansion for this abbreviation. Sounds like voluntary application identification. Yeah, I think this is it. How to get this key pair? First of all, this specification is well described, so you can go and implement this key pair generator yourself. But you don't need this because there are tons of free web services and libraries that can do it for you. So you can generate as many as needed key pairs of Webit specification. And yeah, after all, what is key? It's just a long string with kind of random characters, right? And of course, as name says, public one can be safely shared publicly, and basically this will become part of our web frontend application. I mean, no reason at all to somehow hide it. At the same time, private key is only for our eyes, and this is it's kind of your key to everything. So we keep this only on our backend and never propagate to any kind of frontend, because once you ship something to user browser, it's absolutely impossible to hide it. So yeah, you get this pair. Somehow it's again up to you. It's not part of specification. You propagate, you send public key, or you make public key a part of your front-end part of the application. It's absolutely up to you. You can have it hard-coded in your HTML or JSON part that you load with this HTML, or it can be a separate API endpoint. And again, you don't even need to somehow protect this, because this is public after all, right? So just imagine that key is there. In your JavaScript code, first of all, you somehow convince user to explicitly click some button in your UI saying subscribe, or I want to receive push notifications. I mean, it's your custom button, custom UI. How to convince user to do this? It's on one of the next slide. So just imagine that we got this attention and agreement from our dear user side. In your JavaScript code, you call method subscribe of push manager object of your service worker registration object. You just call this method where you provide this public key as one of parameters. And this method is calling what we can call messaging service. Let's keep this on that level of abstraction for now, because yeah, it all happens under the hood. I mean, we just need to call this method, and the messaging service will return what's called push subscription object. What's in this object? First of all, this is endpoint, some kind of URL that starts as host name list of one of these 4 hosts, and looking at them, you can pretty much easily say which browser vendor is supplying which host name in this push subscription object. And you might easily imagine this that messaging service is strictly attached to particular browser vendor. So if our user is registering from, for example, Microsoft Edge browser, messaging service that is in the game here will be the one from Microsoft, and it will return push subscription object with something like notify.windows.com, and then long hash, long string with also kind of random characters. And this string is absolutely unique identifier of this particular subscription for this particular website for this particular device. Basically, it's kind of unique key for this subscription for messaging service to clearly understand where to send notification when time comes. As a developer, you want to persist this push subscription object, and this is why you might want to call some API of your backend. Again, this is not part of specification. This is something that you're solely responsible for. You want to store this push subscription in some, random generic database of your subscriptions. If you, I mean, it's database of your choice, database that you normally work with in this application. And also at the same time, you might want to keep context. What I mean here, for example, if user was logged in, and if we talk specifically about about notification that you plan to send to this particular user, of course, you want to send, save, for example, ID of this user, right? So again, in your database, you clearly match this particular push subscription object with this particular user. So when time comes to send notification to exactly this user, you will find this, right? And you'll understand whom to send it. And yeah, this is where subscription process stops. So after this, after you deployed your front-end application with this subscribe button and you start gathering subscriptions, you will see how your database of subscriptions is growing, right? But I mean, it has nothing to do with sending notification at all. I mean, you can gather like millions of these registrations, but if there is no good time for sending notification and no need, I mean, this will just stay in your database without any practical usage. But of course, you started all this flow in hope to send something, right? And imagine that time comes and we want to send notification maybe to a particular user or group of user, or it could be even broadcast message for all subscribed users. Not something that I recommend, but still technically this is available. Like always, like many things that are directly attached to our business logic, it all starts on the backend, right? I mean, after all, it's backend that knows that, yeah, this is exact time for the notification. And what do we do to send it? We form special HTTP call to one of the messaging services, and we don't care what which messaging service this exactly, because we have host name of this service for this HTTP call as a part of endpoint of push subscription object, right? So we just form this call and we sign this using our private key, private weighted key, again for messaging service, to make sure that it's us, not bad actor, who is sending this call. And at the same time, in this particular HTTP call, you normally, I say normally because this is not a requirement, send a payload, basically content, basically information you want to send as a notification. Again, this is happening in maybe a vast majority of scenarios, but it's not required here. Instead of forming and signing this HTTP call manually, you might want to use the power of one of available web libraries, and web push, as name says, it's a library specifically for helping you to work with web push notifications. It's a great helper. Using this library, sending this notification request to messaging service is just a question of calling one method. Of course, in that case, we are talking about something that you run in Node.js, right? It's still JavaScript, but it's a backend JavaScript. Messaging service, in its turn, send respective push event to the service worker that is, you remember, always on duty on the user's device. And of course, there is lots of magic under the hood, how messaging service is reaching out to this particular mobile phone or desktop or laptop or whatever. I mean, messaging service is a huge infrastructure provided by one of these browser vendors who actually supports web push notifications. And luckily, this is infrastructure that we as developers and business owners use completely for free. I mean, I mentioned already that you can send as many as needed notifications without spending $1 for this particular step, right? Of course, you spend something for running your backend and maybe like running sending HTTP calls from this, but messaging service itself is completely free. In your service worker, in your hopefully correct and deployed and active service worker on every device of end user, yeah, you have to call show notification method, and this method is provided by notifications API. Again, this is not even part of web push. Also, in the same service worker, before actually showing notification, you can, for example, have extra call to one of your APIs to either refresh or validate data. I mean, this is not somehow hard-coded logic. Before showing notification, you have a chance to run pretty much all kinds of code you want. Of course, there is some time that your service worker can run, and there is like hard stop after a few seconds. But in many cases, it's enough at least to have a couple of calls to your APIs. And yeah, if everything is good and you implemented everything correctly, users will, after all, get some message pops up on like as a popover or sidebar if you talk about Windows system, for example. And you as developer also can get status from messaging service. Unfortunately, this status is not about like being delivered or not. I mean, we can use different tools for checking this, but it's at least let's say technical status. For example, if this subscription ever available currently and on this messaging service, and if not, for example, if users unsubscribed and you somehow missed this in your backend, you can like remove it from your database. I mean, not to make unneeded calls with expired subscriptions. And also, as I mentioned, you can gather some extra analytics, leveraging some extra events in your service worker. Events called notification click, as name says, this event will be called when user actually click something, and notification close when they close this without any actions. Yes, this was a crash course into subscribe and send flows. Now let's talk a bit about user experience, how to provide proper user experience, just to again have better chance that users will after all subscribe to our notifications. And yeah, it's a multi-step flow. You request notification permission, you subscribe, and you save subscription in your backend. And big disclaimer: you have to be polite with your users. Times when it was possible to show this native dialogue, like allow notifications right after users open your website, never opened this before, never did single click there, but they got this like native dialogue in their face. These times has gone. I mean, browsers are becoming stricter and stricter in this flow. Again, not to let bad actors or non-careful actors to abuse this super powerful functionality. And yeah, as a user, you might notice on multiple websites something like notifications, notification request blocked for you. And again, to not interrupt your flow, this will be some subtle icon in title bar or so. And as a developer, or especially as a business owner, you are in trouble if that happened, because if users somehow reject this notification request permission, well, your website is lost for this particular user on this particular device. You have to somehow explain how to go to browser settings and unblock this. Or it's even stricter. If some browsers implemented this. If users ignored notification permission requests for multiple times, this will be also blocked. I mean, even without their explicit saying that I don't want this, just if they ignore this. So what are the ways for you to actually try to get this permission? First of all, consider alternatives. Might sound a bit strange from myself as ambassador of web push notifications, but look at web push as a last resort when like other channels are not good enough, because this is like the most obtrusive way to inform your users. And once they agreed, they will receive notifications, well, right after you send them, right? And also, technically, you can initiate the flow of subscription request only after explicit user action, right? So this subscribe method will be available after user done, I mean, maybe some clicks or spend some time there. And it's very good hint or tips and trick, you name it. Before showing native dialog by calling this either request notification or subscribe, show your own one. I mean, use your application UI framework to show something that looks native to your UI and gather kind of preliminary permission. Maybe you've seen some techniques like this, when first you have dialogue that explains very well what kind of notifications will be sent to you, how to opt out, what kind of cadence, and only then, if users agree, if they know what they agree on, like they, for example, click agree, you show as developer, you call this native one. So it's much higher chance that this will be accepted. If they are not agree, I mean, they click I don't agree, ignore, reject, prohibit, whatever, you still have chance to reconsider this, right? Because this will be not blocker on the browser side. This will be kind of your own blocker, right? So maybe after more interactions with this customer, you can risk to show this dialogue again, and maybe next time after they see value of your application, they will agree. And also, uh, technically, if you completely ignore respective method from notification API and call subscribe method straight from push manager object, you can do this technically, but do not expect that you somehow bypass notification API request permission dialog. This will be shown automatically, but it's definitely not best practice because it does not provide enough flexibility. So how the code could look like? It's a bit simplified, but still illustrates good. So best practice here is still use notification API request permission method, and then if permission granted, you proceed with push manager.subscribe, you are safe to go. If not, this is plan B I mentioned. So maybe you give up for now. Maybe you want to show this dialogue to this particular user after a few more interaction. And then if everything good, you push code, something like this, into your web front-end application, where you first of all get registration object of available service worker, and you use push manager object of this object, where you actually call this method called subscribe, where you provide VAPID public key we discussed before. I hope this will help you to organize proper subscribe flow to, first of all, implement everything technically correct, and second, with all good user experience tips and tricks. I mean, to have better chance that users will not ignore or even worse, reject your ask, your kind ask. Be kind and polite. Now, time to push. If you remember, in the diagram I introduced a few minutes ago, we call messaging service. We responsible for having correctly written push event in our service worker, and also we are responsible, and we definitely want to implement some actions, right? We want to show notification. Maybe we want to call some analytics to understand that these notifications the notification was delivered for this user, again, to satisfy our marketeers who will be able to actually check the whole flow, right? How the notification is going, and is this efficient or not. I want to start with notification object. This is according to specification of web push API, and these are like key fields. It's not all fields available in the specification, but the key ones. And this is normally what you provide as a payload for your web push notification call to messaging service. And you see exactly the fields that were demonstrated by me at the very beginning of the session: title, body, image. And we do not provide image itself, we provide URL, so we have to make sure that these are like publicly available on our servers. And we also can provide array of actions that will be available under some menu. But again, don't expect that actions will be shown on every single platform where users receive notifications. Always have plan B. And let's talk about what kind of notification is the best one, is the most efficient, is it's highly unlikely that users will go and prohibit your website from sending further notifications. Let's talk about this one. The best one is transactional, not promotional. Even though also, I mentioned earlier that web push can be used as broadcast, can be used for sending information to all your recipients. Still, it's not the channel for that. So try to be very specific whom to send and when to send. So your best notification is timely, personal, and of course relevant, right? I mean, I'm as recipient of notification want to receive the only ones that are somehow valuable for me at this time point. Also, remember that you have lots of fields to actually express what you want to deliver in this message. So don't be shy in leveraging both title and body and image. Of course, like keep in mind that some of components might not exist on some platforms. Anyway, it's all better than just a notification that says click see what's going on there or tap here. Deliver information itself. At the same time, in many cases, you want to have some call to action. So in many cases, you want to ask something from the user to do, right? I mean, tap something, like tap on the notification or on one of the actions. So be very straightforward and specific there. I mentioned multiple times that you have only like limited number of let's say pixels, right, for your notifications. So not repeat yourself in these components. You'll see in a second what I mean here. And research shows that emoji is good to be as a part of title or body. I mean, for whatever reason, we as human beings are maybe more open to do some actions that are required from our side if this is somehow funny, somehow personal, somehow emotional, after all. And based on these recommendations, let's do mini exercise. Let's imagine that we are a company that is building website for some airline. Actually, I don't know if this kind of fooairline.com domain exists or not. Anyway, we are a company that want to send notification to a person who bought flight ticket, and it's time now for them to check in. Check-in is available. First of all, notification you see here now, like sample notification, is relatively good, right? So it definitely brings some information, and if we send it at the right moment to the right user, it's still available, right? But we can do better. We can improve something here. For example, in the title, we don't actually need to post name of our company there, because yeah, you can easily understand it from host name that is always a component of notification, right? This is how users exactly understand which website is sending this notification. So why to repeat? Don't repeat yourself. So instead of this, we better put information about flight itself, and I even used emoji of the plane here. Instead of just informing that online check-in is available, we want to be precise in call to action, what we want to get from this particular user. We want them to click or tap here for checking in. Okay, let's ask exactly about that. Also, instead of our beautiful logotype that we can on some platforms supply as a fav icon that will be displayed near our host name, we can also be a bit more creative here and create image that it's, for example, renders even more information about this particular flight, like flight number and departure time. And this is just sample from top of mind. Maybe like you don't need for this kind of overkill information, but still try to be smart what kind of information to have as a part of your notification. And then imagine that users subscribe to these notifications, successfully receive the notifications, and let's make sure that we have all proper components of push event in our service worker. First of all, before ever showing notification, I mentioned before that you're completely free to send a couple of extra API calls, of course, if they are not too long, just to make sure that they are within service worker available time, maybe to get extra data or refresh data. Also, of course, you can build a bidirectional channel between service worker and your application if it's running in the user tab, and you might want to update, for example, UI to add the like counter on some like icon overlay of some button or client. I mean, you know better what kind of business needs you need to have as a part of your application UI. It's a great chance to gather analytics. Again, your marketeers will be happy to fully understand efficiency of this particular channel. And of course, it's all about showing notification itself. And again, you as developers are responsible for correct code for this. Do not expect this will be shown up automatically. No, you explicitly in your service worker code call this show notification method. And the sample code could look something like this. Again, it's simplified, but pretty much real. Like everything in Service Worker, it should be wrapped into wait until promise, just to make sure that browser will not kill Service Worker before it completed its action. So basically, this is kind of chain of the promises. Maybe it's unneeded in many cases. In many cases, you only need to show notification because you have all the components. But yeah, keep in mind. And also, notification click event is great for opening application itself in the browser if it's not open. Or you can try to focus on existing tab if that's open. And also you can apply feature detection if you want to make sure what's available from on this particular browser, on this particular device. Maybe you want to understand if actions are available, like multiple ones. If not, that you can have plan B and to process click or tap by notification itself. And again, analytics. Yeah. To sum up, dear developers, let's be very careful with this extremely powerful feature that is instrumental for many businesses and super convenient for the users if we implement it right. And whole intention of my session is to explain what is right and how to achieve this. Remember that it's available for 93% of internet users, so available on all available major web platforms. Don't misuse this, don't overuse this. And basically all these new restrictions for web API, for notification API are exactly because there were some bad actors or not careful enough actors who, again, misused this super powerful functionality. And in many cases, you don't even need to build full-scale backend for this. There are plenty of services that will help you to say kind of outsource many components of the flow, and you can focus on what matters most for you. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to this slide. Yes, what I want to show next. This is my pre-last slide, and I want to introduce small utility, small service I wrote specifically for developers to test how web push notification might look on this platform or on multiple platforms. Basically, small playground or sandbox, you name it. Push.foo, super simple to remember, super simple to open, and super simple to start playing with. This is small, completely free and open source service where you can like put yourself in your user's shoes, subscribe to notification, check how that looks, and you can even test notifications on multiple platforms. Just go explore and tell me feedback, because yeah, my pleasure to add extra features to this small service if you want it. And my last slide and my main call to action. Just imagine that you received push notification from myself, from Maxim Salnikov, that says, let's connect and chat. This QR code goes straight to my LinkedIn profile, and it's my great pleasure to accept all incoming connection requests from attendees of this session, and if you watch this in recording as well. And ask me any questions about web platform, web push, cloud. I also can answer questions about generative AI, AI assisted development tools, and many more other technology areas. let's connect and chat. That's it from my side. I believe we have 5-ish minutes for the questions, and yeah, if we have some, and I kindly ask dear moderators to jump in and help me with this. Yeah, I see first question. Let me check this and read this. What platforms would you suggest to implement with web push notifications? Yeah, I do not catch specifically what kind of layer of old story is exactly in this question, but let me answer on everything, right? So this is about web technologies. So basically, this if we talk about the technological platform for your application, definitely something related with JavaScript, right? I mean, you have to do this, to use this on the front end, but it might be TypeScript, for example, right? That is, after all, will be compiled to JavaScript, but gives you some extra cool stuff. Backend, I'm a JavaScript developer myself, so this is why I always recommend Node.js. But of course, you can implement what's needed for web push on every backend platform you use. I'm not sure that there are similarly convenient libraries like this web-push I mentioned for every single platform, but I'm pretty sure something is available as well. And if you talk about target platforms where your users might find your web application, everywhere. You can reach out to users on desktop devices, on mobile devices. If they somehow update their browsers to maybe not the latest version, but at least somehow a recent version of the browser, you're safe to go. Great. I hope that answers this question. Next one. Yeah, I see where questions are coming. That's really cool. You mentioned about PWA plus service worker. And how about just web page in the browser plus service worker? Will it work for this? Well, we can spend a whole session to discuss definition or modern definition of progressive web applications, but technical prerequisites for your web application to be available to subscribe users and deliver notifications are any kind of web page. It could be single page application, multi-page application. I mean, doesn't matter at all. Of course, correctly written service worker. Again, I'm not sure that you even need to have manifest. Yeah, you need it for iOS devices, like correctly written web app manifest, because it should be installable specifically for this platform. But HTML page, anyone, correct service worker and backend. So this is obligatory component. I mean, you cannot just deploy something on web that is only front end part. I mean, you can actually subscribe users to notifications using front-end part only, but what's then? You cannot send notifications without your backend. I hope that answers your question. If you call this application PWA or not, doesn't matter. Next one. Seems like web push requires HTTPS. Absolutely, yes. I completely I forgot to mention this in my session, but yeah, I implicitly mentioned this because if we ever talk about service worker, it works only under HTTPS. Only one exception is your local host, just for development and test purposes. Can I use server send events and notifications API to implement some same functionality? What is disadvantage comparing with web push? First of all, I'm not big expert in server send events, but I believe the difference is following. Using server send events, you have to have your application open in the browser. Again, if I understand this technically correctly, and it's not the case for web push. For the web push, it will be delivered regardless of your application state. And basically, it's same if you compare to WebSockets. You can organize real-time bidirectional channel between your application that runs on user devices and your server. But again, it has nothing to do with the case when application is closed. And superpower of web push, and maybe unique power of web push and all push notifications, is the fact that they don't care about is your application currently open or not. I believe kind of follow up of the question about server sent events. We have server sent events and WebSocket in order to establish pushing events. Why should we use web push notifications instead of them? Okay. Basically, I answered the same question, just it was rephrased. Next, and maybe the last question we take: would AI replace developers? Yeah, it's more related not to this session but to my work in Microsoft. No, it will never replace developers. So we are all safe. This will empower us, give us superpower, and of course, using, for example, GitHub Copilot, you go and implement web push much faster and simpler than without it. But yeah, after all, you are pilot, and these are all just co-pilots. Yes, should you have more questions, send them directly to me via LinkedIn. Let's stay connected. And this is all from myself for today. It was great pleasure to have this session, and a great pleasure to receive so many questions from you. Let's stay connected.